Hello and welcome once again to all of you. And before discussing today's lesson, what we are going to study today, I would like to show you some of the pictures, very beautiful pictures like this one. It is of Switzerland, and as you can see, it's a very beautiful picture. And most of us do have a bucket list that someday we may go to Switzerland for a tour and visit those beautiful places, isn't it? This is also one of the the photographs of the Alps in Switzerland. And if we are to go to Switzerland, obviously we cannot use Indian currency over there, isn't it? Indian rupees like 100 rupees note or 200 rupees note or say 2000 rupees notes will not work there. Okay, for example, say if we are to go somewhere, using taxi, then we cannot pay the cab driver using Indian currency, isn't it? So we will either require a Swiss franc, the picture of which you are seeing over here, or you will require euro, in order to pay for the services or the goods that you will be purchasing there or using there in Switzerland. In a similar way, this is a very famous statue which you will find in USA, Statue of Liberty. And most of us do have a dream of visiting USA at least once in a lifetime. There is another place where Hollywood movies are being made, and most of us do want to visit those places also where Hollywood movies are being shot. Not only Hollywood or Statue of Liberty, but also Disneyland and all. So whenever we are in America, USA, then immediately when we reach there, we won't be able to use our Indian currency over there. We won't be able to use our Indian rupees over there. So what currency do we have to use when we are in USA? You all know that we have to use US dollars, or which is given by this symbol, US dollar. So here in both the cases, whether you are visiting Switzerland or you are visiting USA, then you see one thing, that you will require the currency which is in circulation over there in that particular country. In case of Switzerland, it may be Swiss franc or it may be euros, and in case of USA, it is US dollar. So where will you get those currency then? Because you live in India, and even though if you are earning a lot of money, you will be earning in terms of Indian currency, isn't it? That is rupees. So when you are visiting Switzerland, let's say you got the opportunity to visit Switzerland, finally you are in Switzerland, then immediately when you reach there or before reaching there, you have to convert Indian currency to the foreign currency. There is a certain rate at which you have to convert it. Like you all know that sometimes $1 US dollar is equivalent to 70 rupees, sometimes it is 65 rupees, sometimes it is 75 rupees. Every day it is changing. So over here today we will be discussing about that particular thing, that is the exchange rate, the foreign exchange rate. So the next topic which we are going to discuss is foreign exchange rate. And foreign exchange rate means here whenever we get the opportunity to travel to other countries, to visit other countries, then obviously we will require the currency of that particular country. So at what rate will the exchange take place? We will discuss entirely about that particular market system, that is foreign exchange market system, in the topic which we will be discussing today and in coming days. So first of all, let me introduce myself. As you all know, I am Biraj Chhetri, PGT Economics, Kendriya Vidyalaya Barkoi, and today's topic for us is foreign exchange rate, and we will be discussing its part 1 today. So without wasting much of time, let us proceed with today's lesson. Before knowing about foreign exchange rate, we need to know what does the term foreign exchange means. Foreign exchange simply means foreign currencies. Okay, so foreign exchange refers to the foreign currencies or all currencies other than the domestic currency. For example, in case of India, all the currencies other than Indian rupee is known as foreign exchange for India. Okay, all the currencies except rupees is known as foreign currencies for India. Okay, like in case of India, the examples are like US dollar, which is written by dollar symbol, British pound, sterling, and Japanese yen, euros, etc. So there are many foreign currencies which will be treated as foreign exchange. So foreign exchange simply means all those currencies except all those foreign currencies except the very domestic currency other than Indian rupees. In case of India, other than Indian rupees, US dollar, euros, pounds, taka, yen, etc. all are example of foreign exchange. Okay, the next topic which we are going to discuss is foreign exchange reserve. We have heard this term earlier also when we were discussing balance of payments, isn't it? Now, what do you mean by foreign exchange reserve? Foreign exchange reserve simply means the stock or volume of foreign exchange which are kept or held by the central bank of the country. That is, in case of India, RBI will held, okay, RBI will store foreign exchanges, that is the foreign currencies will be stored with RBI or reserved with RBI, and that particular stock is known as foreign exchange reserves. Okay, so foreign exchange reserves refers to the volume or amount of foreign exchange held by the central bank. That is, in case of India, central bank is RBI, so RBI is monetary authority or central bank of the country. Next thing that we are going to discuss is that of foreign exchange market. Okay, we know that when you are asked to define a term goods market, then how will you answer it? You will say that it is a market system where goods are bought and sold or commodities are bought and sold. In the similar way, when you are asked to define labor market, then you will immediately say or write that labor market is a market form where laborers are bought and sold. Labor are bought and sold. In the similar way, when you are asked to define money market, then you will say that where various money forms are bought and sold. So capital market where sales, bonds, etc. are bought and sold. Okay. So similarly, there is foreign exchange market. As the term itself says, is foreign exchange market. So how will we define foreign exchange market? It is a market system. Okay, it is a market system where foreign currencies are bought and sold. Okay, foreign currencies of various countries are bought and sold, or the foreign exchanges are bought and sold. So a market system where foreign currencies are bought and sold is known as foreign exchange market. Okay, or foreign exchanges are exchanged or foreign currencies are exchanged is known as foreign exchange market. Now, after knowing all this definition, we will now come to the term foreign exchange rate. What actually is foreign exchange rate? Okay, foreign exchange rate is nothing but the rate at which one currency is exchanged with other currencies. Okay, foreign exchange rate is nothing but the rate at which one currency is exchanged with the other currency. Or in other words, we can say that foreign exchange rate refers to the price of one currency in terms of other currency. For example, in case of goods market, what do we do? Whenever we purchase a certain good, let's say a cup of tea, okay, then certainly we have to pay certain price against that particular good. Okay, in goods market, goods are bought and sold. in case of foreign exchange market, since foreign currencies are being bought and sold, so what happens here is goods will be replaced by foreign currencies now. So whenever you are asking or demanding for a particular foreign currency, let's say US dollar, then obviously you have to make payment for it. It has a certain price. So that price will be in terms of the domestic currency, that is Indian rupees. So how many Indian rupees do we have to give in order to get $1? That pricing is known as foreign exchange rate. So foreign exchange rate is simply defining one currency in terms of other currency. Okay, we will take an example. It will help you to understand this term. For example, though the value of dollar is much higher in terms of rupee right now, but for simplicity I have taken this value, so don't go with the exact data. This is just an example. Okay, so for example, let's say $1 is equivalent to 50 rupees, suppose say. Okay, so in this case what we are doing is we are expressing US dollar in terms of Indian rupees. For each $1, how much of Indian rupees are to be paid? So here we are expressing US dollar in terms of rupees. Okay, so when US dollar is expressed in terms of Indian rupee. On the other hand, we can express the exchange rate in other way also. That is, we can express rupee in terms of US dollar. Here we have taken rupee 1. How much US dollar is equal to 1 rupee? So we are trying to find out that. So here from this calculation itself, since $1 is rupee 50, so rupee 1 will be 1 divided by 50, that is $0.02. Okay, $0.02 will be equivalent to 1 rupee. Okay, so when we are expressing Indian rupee in terms of US dollar, so there are two ways of expressing the foreign exchange rate. One way is to express the foreign currency in terms of domestic currency. Another way is to express domestic currency, that is rupee, in terms of US dollar. So from here we can draw a conclusion that we can express foreign exchange rate in two ways. One is by expressing the foreign currency in terms of domestic currency, that is US dollar, in terms of rupee, that is the first case. And on the other hand, we can also express domestic currency in terms of foreign currency, which we have done here in second example. Okay, hope you have understood this. Now, foreign exchange rate system there are three types of foreign exchange rate system which have prevailed or which are prevailing in our economy right now. Okay, the first type of foreign exchange rate system is fixed, or it is also known as pegged exchange rate system. Second type of exchange rate system is flexible or floating exchange rate system. And third type of foreign exchange rate system is managed or dirty floating exchange rate system. Okay, let us discuss this first type of foreign exchange rate system, that is fixed or pegged exchange rate system. Okay, what do we mean by fixed or pegged exchange rate system? It is an exchange rate system where the exchange rate at what amount of rupee is to be exchanged with $1, how much of Indian rupees will have to be exchanged with $1, that decision is taken by the government or by the monetary authority, that is the central bank, on behalf of the government. So in case of fixed exchange rate system, the exchange rates, that is the foreign exchange rate, is determined totally by the government or monetary authority on behalf of the government. Usually it is done by monetary authority. In case of India, it is RBI. So usually what happens, the RBI in case of India or the monetary authority on behalf of the government will determine a certain exchange rate, and that exchange rate will prevail in the market. Okay, but fixed exchange rate system occurred. Okay, fixed exchange rate system was prevalent, was in function only until 1973. Okay, after 1973, we have a new system, foreign exchange rate system, that is known as flexible foreign exchange rate system. Okay, so let us understand about fixed exchange rate system by knowing brief history about fixed exchange rate system. So fixed exchange rate system came into being in the year 1880, almost around this. Before this also, so there used to be exchanges between one country with another country, but there was no predefined or well-defined exchange rate system. So the fixed exchange rate system, which was prevalent from the year 1880 to till the year 1914, when the First World War started, that is the year in which the First World War started, there used to be a foreign exchange rate system which is known as gold standard system. Okay, what used to happen in this system? Every country used to express their currency in terms of, or define their currency in terms of a fixed weight of a gold. Okay, for example, Indian rupees will be defined in terms of fixed weight of gold. In the similar way, US dollar will also be defined, or will also be expressed in terms of definite weight of gold. Okay, and whenever these two countries were to exchange, keeping in mind the value of currency in terms of gold, they used to exchange it. Okay, and all the domestic currencies, all the currencies which were prevailing at that time were easily convertible to gold. Okay, let us understand this with the help of this example. Let's say 1 gram of gold, the value of 1 gram of gold is equivalent to $1 in USA. Okay, similarly, 1 gram of gold, the same weight of gold, can be purchased in India at 5 rupees, or it has the value equivalent to 5 rupees in India. Okay, then we can see from here that 1 gram of gold is equivalent to $1 in USA, and 1 gram of gold is equivalent to 5 rupees, 5 Indian rupees. Okay, so from this two we can draw a conclusion that the exchange rate that should prevail is $1 equals to 5 rupees from this two. So this was the way in which the exchange rate used to take place in the gold standard system. All the currencies were measured in terms of gold. Okay, for example, how much of gold can be purchased with particular currency, and based on that the two currencies were exchanged, keeping in mind how much of gold could be purchased with the same amount of money, irrespective of whether it is a domestic currency or a foreign currency. Here we see that 1 gram of gold is being purchased by $1. 1 gram of gold has the value of 1 gram of gold is equal to 5 rupees. So whenever these two countries want to exchange their currencies, then obviously India has to give 5 rupees against the $1 given by the USA. So this was the gold standard exchange rate system. And after this, from the year 1914 up till the end of, almost the end of Second World War, that is up till 1945-44, there was no particular exchange rate system which was prevailing, though fixed exchange rate system was prevailing at that time also, but there was no standard measurement, or there was no standard foreign exchange rate system. So in the year 1944, okay, even before the completion of Second World War, or before the end of Second World War, there was a conference in Bretton Woods. Bretton Woods is a place name in Hampshire County, which is in England right now. Okay, so Bretton Woods, at this place there was conference of 44 countries, and they decided that from now onwards, obviously until the end of Second World War, USA had become one of the global economic power, superpower. So US dollar was usually acceptable everywhere in the world, almost everywhere in the world. So US dollar emerged as one of the universally acceptable currency after the Second World War. So what happened was, all the representatives who attended this Bretton Woods conference in the year 1944, they decided that from now onwards, what we will do is we will define each country's currency. We will define Indian rupees, we will define, let's say, British pound, we will define Chinese yuan, we will define Japanese yen, we will define Bangladesh's taka in terms of US dollar. What we will first do is we'll express our currency in terms of US dollar, and US dollar in its turn can be converted to gold. So there was no direct conversion. In gold standard system, what did we see? We see that domestic currencies or any currencies were directly convertible to gold. But in case of Bretton Woods system, what happened is the currencies, okay, each country's currencies were convertible to US dollar, and US dollar was convertible to gold. Okay, so all the currencies were defined in terms of US dollar, and US dollar was defined in terms of, it was linked with the gold. So the value decided was such that 1 ounce of gold, 1 ounce means 28.35 grams, approximately 28.35 grams of gold. The value of gold was decided in such a way that an ounce of gold, that is 28.35 grams of gold, was equivalent to $35. So if you have $35, then you could purchase 1 ounce of gold. Okay, but this system also could not work for a longer period of time. It was so because in the year 1971 or around this time period, it was found in USA that the gold reserves of USA was fastly depleting, fastly reducing. So the then president of USA, President Nixon, decided that we will come out of the Bretton Woods system, and Bretton Woods system will no longer be in prevalence, okay, no longer will be in function. But after 1971 also, there was one more agreement. It is known as Smithsonian Agreement, okay, and according to that agreement, it was decided that the price of gold in terms of dollar will be raised, and instead of $35, ounce of gold was given $38 after 1971. But that too failed in the year 1973, and after 1973 we had a totally new exchange rate system, which is known as flexible exchange rate system, and which is still prevailing in today's world. Okay, so let us understand how Bretton Woods system worked. With this diagram, it will be pretty much clear to you all. All the currencies, see, British pound, German mark, Italian lira, okay, Japanese yen, 2.80 pound. With at that time, the value of pound was worth $2.8. The value of German mark was such that the German mark worth 4.2 was equivalent to $1, and Italian lira was such that 625 Italian lira was equal to $1, and 360 Japanese yen was equal to $1. So in this way, all these currencies were converted to US dollar, and US dollar solely was convertible to gold, and we see here the price was $35 an ounce, $35 an ounce. Okay, now after 1973, a new foreign exchange rate system came up, and that foreign exchange rate system is known as flexible foreign exchange rate system, or flexible or floating foreign exchange rate system. And in this system, what happened was, now the exchange rate was no longer determined by the government or the monetary authority. In this exchange rate system, exchange rate was totally determined by market forces of demand and supply of foreign exchange. Okay, so according to the demand and supply for foreign exchange, the foreign exchange rate is being determined. This system is still prevailing in the world. Now if we are to compare fixed exchange rate system with flexible exchange rate system, then we see that fixed exchange rate system is such an exchange rate system where the exchange rate is determined by monetary authority, okay, monetary authority or government. And in case of flexible exchange rate system, it is such type of exchange rate where the exchange rate system where the exchange rate is determined by the market forces of demand and supply of foreign exchange. So it is totally dependent on the market forces, flexible exchange rate system. But fixed exchange rate system is determined by government or the monetary authority. And again, second difference is from the definition itself. Exchange rate is completely determined by the government or monetary authority. In case of fixed exchange rate, flexible exchange rate system, it is completely dependent on the market forces. In case of fixed exchange rate system, obviously since government is deciding, so government can intervene any time. But in case of flexible exchange rate system, government cannot intervene. So there is no government intervention. In case of fixed exchange rate system, since the exchange rate changes only after a long period of time, so here the exchange rate is more or less stable. Okay, like say if the exchange rate is rupee 4 equals to $1 today, then after 5 years also you may see that the exchange rate is same, that is $1 equals to rupee 4, unless the government decides to change it. But in case of flexible exchange rate system, it is very dynamic. It will not remain stable. It keeps on changing. Like now, in today's world, we see that every day, not every day, within a day's time also. Like in the morning at 10 a.m., the exchange rate is different, and at the time of 5 p.m. in the evening, we see that the exchange rate is different. So exchange rate is rapidly changing in case of flexible exchange rate system. It won't remain same in 3 days time. It won't remain same as it is today. Okay, if the exchange rate for today is 74.31 rupees against $1, then you will find that on Monday, after 5 days, you'll see that the exchange rate has come down to 70 rupees per dollar. So it is rapidly changing in case of flexible exchange rate system. Okay. Now, what do we mean by managed floating or dirty floating exchange rate? Since you can see that two terms are linked here, managed, floating. Floating means flexible. Flexibility is there, but that flexibility will be managed by the government. So let's see the definition. It is mixture of both the types of exchange rate system which we have discussed till now. Okay, that is both floating or flexible exchange rate and fixed exchange rate system. So how will this operate? Actually, here what happens is government will have a desired range of exchange rate. Okay, desired range of exchange rate, and if the exchange rate goes beyond that level, okay, within that range, government allows the market forces to determine the exact exchange rate. And if the government finds out, or if the monetary authority finds out that the exchange rate is going beyond that desired range, then the government will intervene, and then they will bring that exchange rate back to that range. Okay, let's see that with the help of example. Let's say the government wants the foreign exchange rate of India to lie between, say, rupee 65 per dollar to rupee 68 per dollar. Government is fine with whatever value it takes between 65 and 68. So between this range, market will operate. Okay, foreign exchange market forces, that is demand forces and supply forces, will operate, and it will be allowed to operate freely. Okay, unless and until the exchange rate is between rupees 65 and rupees 68. Okay, if the value of $1 falls below rupees 65, okay, that means if the exchange rate goes below rupees 65 per dollar, government will intervene and bring it back to this range. Okay, on the other hand, if the government, okay, sees that the exchange rate is going beyond rupees 68, that is, if let's say exchange rate happens to be rupees 69 per dollar, then the government will see that it has exceeded this range, so it will bring back the exchange rate back to this range. That is, let's say $1 equals to rupee 68 or $1 equals to rupee 67. However, if the exchange rate is lying between this range, then government will allow the forces of supply and demand, okay, to decide what is the exact exchange rate. It may be rupee 65.2, it may be rupee 65.41, rupee 65.35. So it will be decided by the market forces of demand and supply, but the government will have a very close watch over whether the exchange rate is going beyond the range which the government desires the exchange rate to be within. Okay, hope you have understood this. Now, in case of fixed exchange rate, the changes that takes place in fixed exchange rate can take place in two ways, that is either devaluation or revaluation. Now, what do we mean by devaluation? Devaluation means the decrease or the reduction in the value of domestic currency. It means that the value of foreign currency has increased against the value of domestic currency. So the value of domestic currency will reduce. Okay, and if that reduction is in the fixed exchange rate system and done by the government intentionally, then it is known as devaluation. Reduction in the value of domestic currency by the government in fixed exchange rate system. Whenever the reduction in the value of domestic currency is occurring in fixed exchange rate system, then it is known as devaluation. Okay, let's see an example. You will be able to understand it. If say initial exchange rate is $1 equals to rupee 60, then after devaluation, what will happen? $1 will be equivalent to more than rupee 60, whatever value it can take. I have given an example of rupee 65 per dollar. So what is happening over here is the value of rupee has reduced. Value of rupee has reduced means now you have to give more Indian currency to purchase 1 unit of dollar. Okay, fine. It means that the value of Indian currency has reduced and we have to give more unit of domestic currency against each unit of foreign currency. That is, for $1 we have to give more rupees now in case of devaluation. Revaluation is the opposite of devaluation. The value of domestic currency will increase by the government, okay, and in the fixed exchange rate system. Okay, so devaluation and revaluation both occur in fixed exchange rate system, and whenever the value of domestic currency increases in the fixed exchange rate system as done by the government, then it is known as revaluation. Let's see an example. For example, initial exchange rate is rupee 60 again. Okay, now the value of rupee has increased after revaluation, so we have to give less rupees against each dollar. So here we have treated rupee given 55 rupees against each dollar. It may take any value below rupee 60, then it will be treated as revaluation. In case of revaluation, we have to give less amount of domestic currency against each unit of foreign currency. That is, less unit of Indian rupee against each unit of US dollar. Okay. In case of devaluation, we have to give more unit of domestic currency against 1 unit of foreign currency. That is, we have to give more rupees against each dollar. Here, that is, in case of example of devaluation, we see that 60 was the initial exchange rate and 65 was the new exchange rate after devaluation. But in case of revaluation, 60 was the initial exchange rate and it is now replaced by rupee 55 after revaluation. That is, the value of money, Indian currency has increased, that is, rupee has increased, so we will be paying less rupee against each dollar. On the other hand, in case of flexible exchange rate system, the similar concept is there. The changes may occur in two ways, that is depreciation and appreciation. Depreciation and appreciation has the similar meaning as that of devaluation and revaluation, only with a slight change, that is depreciation takes place in flexible exchange rate system So the value of domestic currency will decrease, but it is not done by the government or monetary authority. In fact, it occurs because of the changes in the market forces, that is demand and supply. So the only difference is that in case of devaluation, it is being done by the government. In case of depreciation, it is done by the market forces. That is the only difference. Okay, and devaluation occurs in fixed exchange rate system. Depreciation occurs in flexible exchange rate system. Other concept is same. Here also, the example is same. Initial exchange rate is say $1 equals to rupees 60. Then after depreciation, we have to give more rupees against each dollar, so rupees 65 per dollar. Okay, but here the decrease in the value of domestic currency is because of the changes in market forces and not done by the government, and it occurs in case of flexible exchange rate system. So devaluation, fixed exchange rate system; depreciation, flexible exchange rate system. You have to remember this. Okay. On the other hand, revaluation will be replaced by appreciation in case of flexible exchange rate system. Here also the definition is same, but you have to keep in mind that in case of revaluation it was fixed exchange rate system, and in case of appreciation it is flexible exchange rate system. So here also the value of Indian currency, that is domestic currency, will rise, but this rise in the value of domestic currency is mainly because of the changes in the market forces and not because of the government intervention. Okay, and it occurs in flexible exchange rate system. Rest the example is same as that of revaluation. Here also initial exchange rate is $1 equals to rupees 60. Now, since the value of domestic currency, that is Indian rupee, has increased, we will be giving less rupee against each unit of foreign currency, that is $1. Okay, so the exchange rate after appreciation will be $1 equals to rupee 55. Okay, earlier it was 60, now we are giving only rupee 55 against each dollar because the value of domestic currency has increased, the value of rupee has increased. Okay, so hope you have understood the concept of foreign exchange rate. Okay, and you have also understood the concept of various type of foreign exchange rate, that is fixed exchange rate system, flexible exchange rate system, and managed floating exchange rate system. And you have also understood about the difference between fixed and flexible exchange rate system. And finally, you have also understood the concept of devaluation and revaluation in case of fixed exchange rate system, and depreciation and appreciation in case of flexible exchange rate system. We will further continue with this chapter, that is foreign exchange rate, in our next lecture. For now, I'd like to take a leave. So thank you very much for patiently listening to me. Okay, hope to catch you later with another lesson in the same chapter. Thank you very much. Stay safe and stay at home. Keep studying. Thank you very much.